Hello, welcome to our Dead as a Doornail live chat. I'm so excited to talk about it. How are we?
I've got a little bit of a stuffy nose if I sound a little weird.
Is your hay fever bad?
I think it was the onions that deal chop for lunch, dinner, whatever you want to call it.
My hay fever's been terrible. I haven't stopped sneezing and blowing my nose and my eyes are watering and it's just absolutely terrible.
And I've got sunburn on my nose and my
Oh no.
warmer in Whitby than I anticipated on Monday.
I know, because you were away camping, weren't you?
Yes.
Did you have a good time?
Wandered down a street where Bram Stoker lived.
Very fancy. Right, so let's just jump into it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was sort of the use of vampire blood in this book as like drugs. I feel like this book's the first one where it really mentions the effects that vampire blood has on humans. Earlier on in the book, like we spoke about the fact that it's got healing qualities and obviously that humans like want to taste vampires' blood and things like that. But this is the first time that it's sort of been spoken about as recreational, shall we say. What did you think about that?
I think it is the first time you can see that the world's developing more as you go into it, and sort of the allergies. I can't even speak. The compounds that she's making to sort of the vampire blood being the blood of choice, and sort of the characters who were involved in that and the structure of that. I think especially the scene when it was in Malot's, where because she sort of builds the world without sort of in little parts. There's no like info dumping, so it's put on that stream of narrative together. But it was I think it's the world's developing and becoming more full, and so more of the sort of background to how them coming out of the coffin is affecting people, especially from since book one. You can see the society changing and developing around it.
I totally agree. I think it's been quite well done because like if vampires decided that they if they decided they existed, because like obviously they have existed, but if they decided tomorrow to like come out of the coffin in real life, like we wouldn't know about their effects like their blood would have on us, like so we would need to like look into all of this, and if they have been using it like sort of as like a medical aid, I guess up until now, then I like obviously we maybe wouldn't find out right away or for a wee while like that it could be used as a drug also. So I thought that that was really well done, so that it's no like everything all at the beginning, but then also we know that Sookie has had blood in the past and it didn't affect her in the way that was described in this book. So that just like reaffirms that, you know, what is she?
That there's something going on that we're not quite sure about yet.
Aye. You know, in Big Brother that year that Nikki Graham was in it, and she's like, "Who is she? Who is she?" I feel like that's what everybody's like with Sookie. Like anytime they meet her, they're just like, "What are you?"
Yeah, and she sort of has that effect, doesn't she? Sort of they can tell that she's something different, and she will say, "Well, I'm a telepath," but I think that they think that wouldn't give off whatever vibe Sookie is giving off. That explanation of that.
Definitely.
So, definitely change, but I could see why as well when there's more the medical implications of it. You can see why the vampires don't want you to know that, because then is the potential that you would just farm vampires, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can sort of understand some of the decisions that they've made or Charlie put into this book and the explanations around it. Definitely.
I think it's interesting as well because in a lot of like vampire fiction, they are sort of feel like top of the food chain, be all and end all, super strong, like very little weaknesses. There's no way that you could like take them down. Whereas this actually shows like, well, they do have legitimate concerns and fears because like as a human race we're barbaric. So like if we think that, you know, we could maybe get something for their blood, whether it's selling it for drugs or using it in the medical field, you're absolutely right. Like we would absolutely just have vampire farms all over the place, like in the same way we have actual farms. And so I think it's interesting to see like sort of a different side of it. I think it just helps make them seem a wee bit more, I don't know, realistic almost. Like they aren't these superhuman creatures, like they have concerns and fears for us as well.
Well, even now in society, there's vampire police, and the police have established vampire cells. So whereas before it would be sort of the higher in the chain, humans are evolving to make sure that they do evolve to be still in control.
Yeah.
To some degree, that there is some control there, which is interesting as the world's building.
Totally agree. Totally agree. The other thing was this book to me felt like it had a wee bit more of a mystery in it. Obviously, last book we had the whole like what's happened to Eric thing, but that felt like, let's say, a mystery and maybe like a plot device so that we could have some Sookie and Eric time, which nobody was complaining about. But I feel like this one felt a lot more like the first couple of books in the series to me, in terms of it like having that sort of a mystery element to it as well. I was just wondering what your thoughts on that were.
Well, you probably didn't pick up on this, but because I don't know whether you've read any Charlene Harris sort of mysteries that just wrote before. Lily Bear Leeds, the investigator, is actually one of Charlene Harris's other mystery books.
Oh, cool.
So Lily, I think that's what she does as well, and I don't think it's a spoiler. I think there may be some other crossovers appear in the book somewhere else down the line. But yeah, when Lily Bedlead appears, she's from our mystery books. She's an investigator. So when she comes to find out what's happened with Debbie, sort of thing, it's a sort of a nod to our own world, that our worlds are intersecting.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it definitely had more of a mystery feel to it, and especially the sort of who's the sniper. Do you know what I mean? What's going on? And another couple of characters came in that you didn't really know, so you didn't know their background, to give you that idea of, is it sort of the kook? Is it this person? Do you know what I mean? Is it someone from Hotshot? Is it all sort of that sort of happened? It was more of a mystery plot as you went along, and Bill wasn't in it that much, so that was good.
Winner. I felt as well like with when we sort of find out at the end of this who it was, like she obviously gives you that wee like false finish where like you think it's all wrapped up with a wee bow, and then it's like boom, actually no, it's no. And I didn't expect that. Like I totally forgot who it was when I reread this book, because I've obviously not read it for so many years. So it was actually a surprise for me. But I really enjoyed that, because for the past couple of books it has been very character focused. And although there was the mystery element, I felt like because this one was so character focused as well, like when it was sort of wrapped up with a bow, I was just expecting that. And then it packed this really good punch where it was like, oh, hold on, like this isn't actually what we thought it was. I just thought it was a really clever twist that she had done in this one to sort of just like reignite it back to a wee bit of a mystery. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was engrossed.
Yeah. And I think as well how Sookie gets involved is quite natural, of why she's invested in that. in that way. So she wasn't really coming across as the amateur detective sort of person. She was just involved because she knew the people who were involved, and she knew the connection, where she was assuming that nobody else knew the connection between these people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then my favourite subject. Sookie and Alcide. So I like 1,000%. Like, I'm getting giddy just thinking about it. Like, I just think they would be such a great wee couple, and I feel like in the beginning, like Sookie sort of has this like apple pie life that she is sort of wanting to go down, and she knows that Alcide can give her that, but then she gets all these different things, and she starts getting a wee bit more sexually adventurous, and dating a couple of different guys, and so then what she wants maybe changes. But I feel like by this book, Alcide is sort of so over Debbie, like that's in the past, and he's in like a much better place, and like he might be exactly what she needs now, and like I just love it. I get so girly about it, honestly. I'm like, oh.
I think this, well, with Alcide though, there's a side to him that I think is, for me, a bit. He thinks Sookie needs him to save her in some way, but she does come across as a very sort of independent person. She's definitely grown as a character from the first book to where we see her now. And I think also the sort of some of the assumptions he makes about her that she like dismisses, although he doesn't like sort of how she's made her money and things like that. But I think that's just because the way that Charlene sort of has these characters, and they do have prejudices against each other. So with him being aware that he does have sort of like stereotypes about other shapeshifters or the vampire community and things like that. But he's one of the few people who doesn't really, I think he knows there's something about it, but he never really mentions it that much.
I
agree. Thing, as much as other people. But in this book especially, I think there was a lot of interest towards Sookie from a lot of different places as well. She seems to be in a, do you know what I mean? In a good place with all this attention.
She has indeed.
And I don't even think she recognises.
No, I know she doesn't. Like, she knows obviously Bill still fancies her because he's Bill. Like, and she had this dalliance with Eric that he doesn't know about. So, like, she knows on some level that, like, he fancies her. But I don't, like, she obviously knows Alcide, but I think that in this one, like, we saw a lot of other people just coming out of the woodwork who have, like, maybe she's even just passed, like, a wee thought that's been passing through their head that they're like, oh, hiya. And she, like, she doesn't even know. It's so cute. I just think that her and Alcide would be such an adorable couple. Like, I just think you're right. Like, he does think that she needs protecting in a lot of circumstances, and she doesn't. But I think that, like, she's the type of person that would always put him in his place with that. And I think that you're right in terms of his prejudices towards other supernaturals. But because Sookie is just so, like, open-minded, I think that would maybe help him a wee bit. And I think that he would maybe help her realise sort of what it was that she was wanting, because I feel like she's in a place now where she doesn't know, not just romantically, but just on like so many levels, like because so much change and everything. But I really love them.
I do like the way that she's played with Eric not remembering as well.
That is exactly my next point.
She has played with her knowing what happened and him not, although he can sort of, he's putting pieces of it together. But even when he's asking questions, she can be quite flippant with our replies to him. So she's just definitely in a place where I think she wouldn't have been like that in book one. So you can really see her developing as a person.
Definitely. I think that we really saw in this book that the fact that Eric doesn't remember, like, it gives her a lot of freedom. I was quite gutted for her in the last book when, like, he didn't remember and she decided not to tell him. And I totally got why she made that choice. But I feel like in this one, we sort of see, like, well, she doesn't actually know if she wants to be with Eric or no, and she doesn't know if that was just a sex thing, or like if she maybe wants a relationship with him, or if she even wants to be in another relationship with a vampire. And like, I think it was really nice to see, like, although we were talking about single Sookie in the last book, she was single, but she was sort of feel like fucking about with Eric, so she wasn't really. Whereas I feel like in this one, it was like proper single Sookie. There was a lot of advances made on her and a lot of people expressing thoughts and feelings about her, but she just was like not really interested, and she was just like focusing on herself, which I just thought was really cool to see. And again, I think it just shows her strength as a character, because I think Sookie in earlier books would have probably jumped at the attention, and no, because like, I'm not calling her a hullet, like, I think just because she like wasn't used to that type of attention, or been able to have that type of attention where she didn't know every thought going through the person's head. So I really liked that.
And I think as well, he was quite surprised in some of the things that she told him, sort of some of the things that he said, or he that he'd wanted to do, which is more like possibly what he was like as a human rather than as a vampire, because as a vampire he's quite politically motivated and has his sheriffdom, or do you know what I mean? And he seems to be, I mean, even in this book as well, he knows people who can get things done, and he plays that part, this political part. So I think when he couldn't remember, or his amnesia probably took him more back into his human self, and I think that surprised him when Sookie said some of the things that she'd said to him. So yeah, interesting.
Definitely interesting. It'll be interesting to find out how it then goes on to affect Eric. So if over the next couple of books, I reckon there could be some really interesting character development coming up for him.
Yeah. And I think Sookie still sort of carries the torch for Bill through some of the comments that she said. Well, he's just a ball bag, especially in this one.
I agree. I think she does still sort of hold that wee torch for Bill. And I think, knowing Sookie as a day, because we're best pals, I feel like she thinks that that's just like normal, and like that's the done thing. She's like a proper wee girl for the South, and he was her first love, so she's always going to have a wee thing for him, when in reality, like, who still has that for their first love? Because like, no. Like, and I think that she'll just like get over that and sort of move on, and then she'll maybe be able to go into like a proper relationship with somebody else and not have sort of Bill in the back of your head. Because I feel like Bill, especially in the past couple of books, has been in it through Sookie's thoughts and feelings more than he's actually had on-page time himself. So she definitely still is holding a wee something, but aye, he's a ball bag.
Definitely.
So then something else that I wanted to talk about was everybody's thoughts on Andy in this book, because I feel like we sort of see a really different side to Andy. He was sort of one of our main side characters in this book, and like, it hasn't really been like, he's had some page time. We obviously know who he is. He's mentioned a wee bit of dialogue and stuff throughout the series so far, but this was the first book where I feel like we really got to know him. And so far, he's just sort of been like a wee bit of a lovable buffoon. And then in this book, like, we got to know sort of a wee bit maybe a darker, more prejudiced side to Andy. What was your thoughts on that?
Sorry, excuse me. Yeah, I think he does come across as that sort of buffoon cop from the South who's a cop in his hometown, and that sort of gives him that elevation that he probably never had when he was at school, so he became a policeman. Yes. And I think as this one goes on, though, he's struggling. I think he knew there was something different about Sookie, and he struggled with that. So finding out about all these other different things, he's struggling. But at the same time, sort of near the end, he sort of does do the right thing. Sort of, but just to try and keep the status quo and maybe thinking, I mean, this isn't happening in my town. And if I think this is actually what went on, do you mean, then that's it. And then I'll just put everything else in the back of me head that he can sort of believe Sookie's a telepath, and he can sort of, there's vampires and everything else is just getting too far out of control for him in a way.
I know, and I thought it was quite interesting social commentary with Andy in this book, because I think that if you take all the different supernatural characters and you think about them as all the different members of the LGBT community, maybe somebody who's an Andy in the South would be, right, okay, I can get there's gay people, I can get, like, that they exist, fine, like, I'm not pleased about it, but fine, like, but I can't deal with the fact that, like, we have bisexual people and asexual people and transgender people, and, like, so that's just too much for them. So I thought that was really interestingly done, because really, like, there's not that much difference between a vampire and a werewolf and a shifter and fairies and, like, werepanthers and whatever else has been mentioned at this stage. And so, like, he's like, right, I can accept this. I can't deal with that yet, but I can accept this. But I think it could be interesting to see how Andy then grows with that over the course of the series, to see if actually he does become a wee bit more open-minded, and he just sort of, he needs time, or if there needs to be some, like, sort of a tough love, like, no, like, these are still people within your area that you need to protect, regardless of, like, their species, like, you just crack on.
Because I think right from the beginning with Andy, Sookie said he doesn't like us for some reason, and I don't know why. And at the same time, he does seem to get on with that, do you mean, to some degree, and there has been those moments. So I think with Andy, he is that character where it's that slow build, and that understanding, and him getting to understand his world in his way. And I think that Andy in the book is very different to the Andy in the TV show.
Yes, vastly different. But I think that could be interesting to see. I think as well, like, it was really good to see Sookie put Andy in his place a bit, because I feel like she's just, like, she almost just accepts that people know she's a bit of a weirdo, like, and that's fine, because that's been her entire life. She obviously still doesn't really know what she might be or what's going on with her, like, but she's finding out about all these other different soups, and she's just sort of feel like, all right, cool. But I feel like she's getting more confident when it comes to her own abilities, and it was nice to see her stand up for herself, like, when she was hearing his thoughts and stuff, and he was saying stuff that she didn't agree with, she was like, no, hold on. And I don't feel like we've really saw that side of her yet, like, in her normal life in Bon Tom. We've sort of see it grow when she's been on, like, wee quests for Eric and stuff. So it was nice to see her bring that confidence back to her hometown and be like, no, actually, like, you can't even think that way about me, or you can't think that way about other people. Like, this is how it is. And I really enjoyed that.
Because I think it's interesting when it was only her, she sort of accepted it and didn't want to cause any, you know what I mean? She wanted just she wanted to live where she lived, and she wouldn't sort of rock the boat in any way. But the more that people that she knows and loves is getting involved, and Andy's thinking about those, that's when she's stepping up to the mark more about them, and then eventually herself. Like,
exactly. It's such a clever progression, because I think that is the same for a lot of people. They will stick up for somebody else that they care about more than they'll stick up for themselves. And again, it just helps really make her more a believable, endearing character, because it's all these qualities that we love about Sookie.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have to keep an eye on him.
We will indeed. And then, no spoilers, you wanted to talk about Quinn.
Well, I think with Quinn, it also brings in sort of the wares and the pack leader, and sort of how they are sort of their hierarchy works and what can happen. So it was interesting to think that, I could not be a spoiler to say that Quinn's a were-tiger. So it's like that next progression when you just think that you've met the top of the hierarchy, then it's like, yeah, and it's a were-tiger who actually comes in and makes sure that this is done fair and right, because they're actually then more physically stronger. And it sort of makes sense when you think of the animal world. It sort of makes sense. But I also thought it was interesting the way that Sookie had used her ability, and she thought she was using it for good, but the werepack completely then flipped the rules and it actually put Elsie's dad in an even worse situation. And I think Sookie was struggling to understand that, and that's where Quinn, being that impartial person, sort of helped explain this world to her. And I think that's the first time, like over the other books, her ability's always been the thing that saved someone or something happened, and there may have been things happened and casualties involved in it, but it was for the overall good that it was used. And the way that the wares tried to use her, do you mean she thought she was doing the right thing, that actually wasn't, and I think she struggled with that as well.
I absolutely. I think that it was really interesting for Quinn to come in at this point as well, because, like, exactly like you say, Sookie's ability sort of always saves the day. Like, it's her that comes up with the plans, or she listens into somebody else so that, like, they know where they need to be. It's usually like the vampire's strength or Sam's shifting abilities or something like that, but it's always her, like, ability that makes the crux of the plan, and everybody just depends and trusts on that. And so I think that this really went to show for the first time, like, actually, there are people out here with abilities that go above and beyond hers, and we sort of have been living all this through her eyes. Like, so she is sort of like the biggest, most mystical thing to us, but actually she's just a tiny part of a much bigger world. So exactly like you were saying earlier, where you felt like this book really expanded the world a lot. I got that sort of when I was reading these chapters and I was sort of meeting Quinn. So I really enjoyed that. And
I think it was the same with Tara's subplot during this book as well. Sookie felt a bit defenseless, that she couldn't get her out and what had happened to her, and then sort of that understanding, but at the same time, when Tara was saying one thing, she could read her thoughts and was thinking, well, she's done this and this is why they've done that. So it was the first time where I think our abilities were not the sort of the saviour of the day. It made our life more complicated.
Totally agree.
Yeah, so the Packmaster battles, I think that showed how cunning I think the wolves are, and that they're not always. I think Sookie always goes on the side of good. So, do you know what I mean? She's struggling to understand how there was that shift that then made that not go quite the way she planned.
I really enjoyed the Packmaster battles. I feel like we got to learn a lot about sort of like werewolf hierarchy and werewolf politics, which we know I love. That is my jam. And so I really enjoyed that, because I feel like when it comes to the vampires, we've only sort of scratched the surface a wee bit in terms of their politics and their hierarchy, and there's going to be so much more to come. So I really liked that. I felt like we were getting somewhere with the werewolves, and I sort of liked that because the shifters in that were in danger throughout this book as well. She was sort of like learning all this stuff about the werewolves and then talking to Sam a wee bit about it, and Sam was sort of like, aye, well, it doesn't work like that for us, sort of thing. So then like might go into then find out sort of how like shifter life works, or we might not. So I found that really interesting. I really did enjoy it, and I felt like it was really interesting for Sookie because she met Bill. She thought Bill was a good guy, like fell head or heels with him. She knew he was a vampire. then maybe came to the realisation he was maybe a wee bit morally grey and she could live with that, and then was like, actually, he has a ball bag. Like, I didn't want anything to do with that. And like, she didn't want anything to do with Eric. And then, like, just because of his nature. And then when he had a wee bit maybe a softer side, and you know, he really depended on her, she was like, And so then I'm wondering now how our feelings are going to go for Alcide going forward, because although Alcide in this situation wasn't inherently the bad guy, because of the whole wolf packmaster battles deception, I wonder if that'll sort of shift her feelings for him a wee bit, because she does seem to really struggle. Like, I think she just likes there being a really clear line between good and bad, and she doesn't want any grey area or any ambiguity. She just like, no, this is good, that is bad. I'm only want to associate myself with the good.
Yeah, and I think what was interesting in this one, I don't know whether you picked up on it, and I can't remember what the vampire is called, but the vampire who was taking advantage of Tara, when his sire called him back, but he still ran. Now, Bill had always said that when Lorena called him back, he had no choice. And Eric was like, no, he's running, and it'll be a million times worse for him when he's caught, but he is running. And I think, to me, that's when Sookie starts to think, well, why did Bill not do that? Do you know what I mean? Like, what makes it so different? And then the conversation around, well, Pam, if Pam's yours, and Eric said, but Pam's free, unless she can do what she wants. So there's those like different sort of relationships that's going on, which then goes back to Bill saying, well, no, when Lorena called, I had to go. Sort of thing. And I think that's what's good about Charlene's book. Like, if you were reading that as a standalone, it wouldn't necessarily be sort of a spoiler or anything like that, but because you've read some of the other books before, it's like those little bits of the world are still being reflected on, that you go back and go, oh, so he didn't have to.
I know,
he could have ran.
Yeah, you know, he is working on this whole dossier. Like, we knew this. Like, he's obviously loved
Facebook for vampires.
Facebook for vampires, absolutely. Like, he probably could have found something out about Lorena, like, to make her. Like, obviously she doesn't want to, like, let him go. And I totally get that, because she likes the hold over him. I think she probably does love him in her own twisted way. But, like, he could have manipulated her and used his powers and his, like, political standing to have gotten her, to have let him go. Like, he could have used blackmail or something, I feel like, and he just hasn't. And I think that actually speaks volumes, because for me, I think that Bill likes to try and pretend like he's the good guy and just live a wee simple life, but actually he quite likes being called back to Lorena and just, like, having these wee times where he can go wild and act like an animal and do what he likes without judgment. Like, and that's fine if that's the life that you want to live, but then he drag Sookie down with you.
Yeah. So there was a ball bag.
He has a ball bag. And then everybody's favourite. Let's talk about Bubba. So,
he made an appearance.
He did, and right at the end of the book, and sort of gave us a wee message that, you know, maybe shows that he's not as much a dafty as everybody thinks he is. Like, actually gave Sookie a wee bit of a warning.
Yeah, and I think as well, it was a part of the book that if you'd read the previous books, when Charles the Pirate Vampire, which I think, when he's like, oh, is that whose hero is? And then he's like, I've never heard him sing. And that's when Sookie was like,
yeah, how did you not hear him sing?
Yeah, and that's so it's a little thing that if you read in a series, you go, oh, like he hasn't come from there. But later on, she sort of explains why you can't come from there, because I forgot the name of the king of Mississippi. I'm not doing good at it. But you know what I mean? It was a big part of the story that they wanted wanted him to sing, and we'll get him to sing.
Yeah.
So that's why I think the more that the story's developing as well, and the more Charlene Harris is writing about it, there's those little sort of nods to our previous book. But if you read it as a standalone, it still wouldn't affect the reading. It's just a little nod, like, and also to the other books that she's wrote, like putting Lily Baird in there as the investigator.
Yeah.
And then that's a nod because that series is finished of where Lily Baird is now. Like, oh, well, she married this person, because Jack Leeds is also a character in one of the mysteries. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, that's what's happened to her.
Aye, so that's
a spoil if you've gone backwards.
So I actually have another series. Well, I've started collecting another Charlene Harris series, but I don't know what one it is. Let me see. I'm dropping books everywhere. An Easy Death.
Oh, I'm reading them with Laura from Book Bubbler.
Oh, are
We've
you?
read the first. Have we read the first 2 or 3? We've read the first 3. The next one's coming out in September, I think.
Oh, right.
That's an alternative world. You like that because that's quite political.
Oh, excellent.
Do you know what it's about?
No, I don't actually. It was in a charity shop. No, the last time we went book shopping together, but the time I went before that, and I was just like, I'm going to get it. But I actually think I'm maybe going to get all the Aurora Tea Garden ones, because I know you really like them as well. I think I'm maybe going to give them a go, as well as those ones.
Yeah. Robert Tea Garden's more mystery. Gunny Rose is an alternative America. And so that's interesting, the politics of it. So yeah, if you read them all in time, you can join the next read with me and Laura when the new one comes out.
I don't think I will. I don't think we'll get there. I'm not meant to be starting any new series yet.
Oh yeah, started in 2023.
Yes, I will. So sorry, I totally derailed that conversation. Who's your favourite character so far? How are you feeling?
Well, you see, because I don't want to say anything because it might be a small spoiler, because Quinn does return to the Sookie world, and I do like him as a character. I think he's a good balance with Eric. And the other 2 characters that I really like is Claudine and Claude.
Yeah.
They're just fun. They're just funny.
They are, absolutely hysterical. I think Claude's funnier than Claudine, because Claudine just thinks she is like the business, and Claude is just like, what's she about? And it just takes the rip out of me, but I like their dynamic. I think it's great. I don't know who my favourite character is at this point. Maybe I'll
still Sookie.
Maybe Sookie.
Apart from Sookie.
Apart from Sookie, I think probably Alcide. I really like him. I think that he's one of the most upfront, honest, and genuine people that we've met so far. And so, like, that really appeals to me, because I feel like we've got so many other characters who are maybe a wee bit deceitful and a wee bit morally ambiguous. So it's nice to just sort of have a good guy to back. I really like that. And I really like, I don't know, I like him. Maybe I fancy him. Like, I just think he's just brilliant, and he is so lovely to Sookie. And I feel like the reason I like him as much is because he likes Sookie as much as he does. And I feel like he doesn't love her because of her blood, and like he doesn't love her because he's trying to work out the mystery, which she is, and he's not trying to get her like because it's a goal for him, a wee bit like how it was for Eric. I just feel like he wants to get her because he's a good guy and he really wants to make her happy and he really cares about her. And like, I know you could maybe argue the same point for Sam, but I feel like it's different. I feel like Alcide has genuine care for her and knows her a lot better, whereas I feel like Sam, she's always sort of been like that, the one that got away, like the unrequited. He's got
the will or the won't there, the nearly kissed this time.
Whereas I feel like Alcide just like really fucking cares. And so I just love that because I love Sookie so much. I just want them to be together and be happy and have Me werewolf.
I think the reason I like Quinn in this book is because he is just so impartial, and he protected her from the battle, what was going on in a way, but also for no other reason than that was his role while he was there. So he was just straight with her. There was no political agenda. He's not aligned to anybody. So if she asks him something, he's just honest with her. So
Aye, he's a good guy too.
yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. I also just want to point out before we move on, I think it's really interesting that Charlene Harris has got like we're panthers and we're tigers in these books, because like any other paranormal romancy books that I've read, like it's always werewolves. It's never like we're anything else. Like, and obviously if there's were dogs, there would be were cats. So like I think that's really interesting that she's done that. Because if there's so many different species of dogs and cats, then why would there no be alternative were species? But then sort of it begs the question of their origins, doesn't it?
And I think the shifters can shift into the animal of their choice to some degree. That's a new dynamic, because then you can't really keep a track of them. They can be there. I think it even happened with Sam in this book. So they can be whatever the want to some degree, sort of things. Interesting that they can just blend in. So saying that, what did you think about the near kiss with Sam and Sookie? Were you throwing your book about?
I was quite annoyed, I'm not gonna lie. I just you know what? There's just something about Sam that doesn't sit right for me. Like he just gives me the creeps. Like it's just, I'm like, gonna know me. I feel like he isn't interested in Sookie for the right reasons. And I feel like he just wants to get her to prove that he could have her if he wanted. Like I don't feel like it's a genuine, like he's really interested in her. Because I feel like Sam doesn't really know Sookie all that well. Like although they've worked with each other for years and years, and like he knows her as an employee, like I don't feel like he really knows her personally all that well. He doesn't know, how she's been feeling about her grand dying, and he doesn't know, how she's doing financially and like the stress that might bring on. And he only sort of knows about all the stuff happening with Jason because he was sort of feel like keeping her up to date with like what would happen with shifters and stuff like that, and giving her a wee bit of advice. But I don't feel like he's like genuinely a big part of her life other than he's her boss. And so then it's just creepy to me that he's trying to pursue her so heavily. I just want him to pack it in.
See, I just think that there's a line that as the boss, he's trying not to cross, but then he crosses it, and then he tries to like recorrect himself.
Aye.
So it's
That's the thing with Sam for me as well. Like I feel like he tries so hard to be the good guy that if he was genuinely a good guy, he wouldn't need to try as hard. And so I'm always like, like, what are you hiding? I just feel like there's something there, like he's not 100% honest, and there's just something a bit off about him. Like, because exactly like when he's having these thoughts about Sookie and stuff, like they're completely inappropriate. Stop. Like they're so inappropriate, and he knows they're inappropriate. And instead of like trying to stop having them, like he makes a big deal about trying to stop having them so that she'll know that he's trying not to have them because he's her boss. So he's trying not to be inappropriate. And it's like, come on, mate. Like we've all known very nice guys. Like you're no.
So yeah, lots of new interesting characters.
Definitely. And some old ones showing more true colours. Hello, Margaret.
Hi, Margaret.
So then, who's everybody's current ship? I mean, I have like staked mine for the beginning of this live, so it's not a surprise.
I think I'm actually enjoying her being by herself. I really am. And I think all of the interest around her the fact that she is by herself's a good thing. Just not jumping around too much or making rash decisions about things. And it was interesting though. I think she made a thing or a comment in her head about, if my grandma was here, she would be saying he's a good catch. Do you know what I mean? And sort of things. But that's not for me. And I think that's seen I was being like at independence. So I'm enjoying that. And then I can't comment.
No spoilers. No spoilers here. I am obviously Sookie and Alcide. Like, that is my team. That is my dream mashup. I just think they're really cute together. I think that Alcide's such a good guy. He would do right by her, and I feel like he would give Sookie a lot of normality as to what she was expecting to have a life like, which I feel like would give her security. But also, like, he's mature enough, and he's obviously supernatural, and like, he would be there with her through all the danger and like ridiculous shenanigans that she gets herself into, that like he would be there with her and support her through that and help her with that, that like it wouldn't be a totally boring life. So I feel like he would be like an ideal wee middleman between the two types of life that she feels like she would want.
Yeah, because she wouldn't want to live in hotshot.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. He would definitely need to move to Bon Tom. 100%. But I feel like he would like get on really well with Jason and everything. Like it just like get on with everybody in her life, because he's just such like a laid back guy, whereas Bill and Eric are both so like defensive. Like, even though Jason's their brother, like they're both still trying to like out alpha him, whereas like Alcide's just chill about it, and he's like, all right mate, do you want a beer? Like, I just feel like it would be really nice.
Yeah. Well, I definitely, because I think I said it before and like joked about it, but I don't ship her with Eric for all the reasons we've discussed before, that he's got a different life, which I think is when she told him what he'd said to her was a bit of a shock to him, because he's on a different trajectory, I think, although that's the conflict with him. But yeah, we'll just have to see what happens. You haven't read have you still the last 2 books, or just the last 1 book to read? Have you read them all? 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be good. We will read them together.
It better end how I want it to, or I will reach in. I'm just telling you now.
It's a good thing about having a bad memory. I can't remember some things.
And then obviously next we are doing Definitely Dead.
With your favourite person on the front of mine.
I know. Sam. Great. But we get 2 books this month.
Yes. So I'm going to start this one. And I think this one is sort of another more mystery-based one, isn't it?
Can I just like out myself as a total idiot?
What you done?
Right, so I've obviously got the rainbow covers with like the blood splatter in them, right? And it wasn't till I was reading this book that I realised the blood spatter's like in a pattern. And so that's obviously a gun in that blood spatter, right? Because it's the shooter. Like, and then I was like, hold on, like that can't be, like, I've not read like all these books in a series, and it is. Because look, like that's a bat. And then like that's obviously like somebody being bitten. Like, it's the broomstick for the witches. Like, and then there's like the wee shoe, like, because it's Club Dead, and I'm like, how have I only realised this?
Call yourself as fan.
I know. So Definitely Dead's got a wee wolf on it. So
mine's got Sam on it. But these books, the person on the front's normally got nothing to do. I think there's only Eric that matches.
Exactly.
Oh, well, Tom was in this one a little bit. She was sort of a subplot.
I know, that's true. She was.
Although Tara in this book resembles nothing like the description
Oh,
on
no.
True Blood as well.
Well, I'm going to go start this.
So is it the 15th? I can't remember.
For yours.
Right. Yeah, so we've only got a couple of weeks.
Yes, 2 weeks to get this one done. But let's be honest, we're all reading them in a day, are we know? That's been like the usual trajectory. 2 weeks.
That's what we're doing. Queen's Jubilee? What's all that about?
Aye,
Definitely dead the read.
absolutely not. Charlene Harris is the true queen, thank you.
And now that my Juby duty's over,
You have more reading time.
I've got more reading time. Juby duty took up a lot of my time.
Aye, I get that. I get that. Well, thank you everybody for joining us. And we will see you in the next one over on Angie's channel on the 14th.
And I'm sorry I was late.
That's
I
all
had
right.
technical difficulties.
Technical issues happen.
I was Simon would say an old woman with a Mac problems.
Aye, but we didn't listen to what Simon says, especially knowing this house. So it's
Isn't
all
that a
right.
game? Simon says.
Simon says aye. But I just like to be a rebel, so I do absolutely nothing that Simon says to me. That's my life.
Well, we're in time now.
Yes. Bye.
I'm definitely dead.
Definitely dead.